Hello and welcome to the April 16th, 2021 edition of the Bobby Hesley Show. It's been a while since you guys have heard anything from me. I've been very, very busy focusing on those things in my life that I have complete and total control over. Now, I'm just going to get right into it. I wasn't really planning on doing a broadcast. It's just kind of off the cuff. I can't stay silent about some of what's going on in this country. I mean, pick and choose. There's lots of crazy stuff going on in the country. But the most recent police shootings, we have the left, we have the woke Marxist left that's at it again, even though they've gotten everything that they wanted. They got the White House. They have the House of Representatives. They have the Senate. They're getting ready to pack the courts. They control the media. They control academia, all of our educational institutions. They control the scientific narrative, whether it has to do with the pandemic or whether it has to do with climate change. They control Hollywood. They control all of the media. They have complete and total control over every aspect of our culture. They have all the power politically, legally, influentially, culturally, scientifically, you name it. Yet that is still not enough for them because people on the left are bottomless pits of secular expectations that can never be fulfilled. Even though they have all the power and control over everything that I just mentioned, they still have to gin up these police brutality narratives. You would think that once Trump left the White House, once they got him out of there, you would think that all these narratives would go away. But instead, they continue to increase. They continue to intensify, just like they did 8 years under Barack Obama. Because lest I need to remind you folks, Black Lives Matter, hands up, don't shoot. Stop killing us. I can't breathe. No justice, no peace. That all started on Barack Obama's dime. And him and Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch, who are the two people that controlled the Department of Justice under his presidency, they fueled and intensified all these racial tensions when it comes to these police interactions. And I've about had it with all these narratives of what I believe is the bigotry of low expectations towards our black youth. All you woke white leftists who don't do your research, who don't do critical thinking, who take everything that the media says at face value without even looking into it. Ready, fire, aim. You get all up in your fifis before all the facts come out. Whether it was with the young man that was killed, Dante, whether it was with the lieutenant who was pepper sprayed, whether it was with Adam Toledo, who's going to be the focus of this video, a 13-year-old Latin king who was shot and killed fatally by the Chicago Police Department 2 weeks ago. It doesn't matter what the narrative is. As soon as you guys turn on the news or as soon as you pull out your phone and you see that there was a minority, a brown-skinned person who was killed by police, your default factory setting is to get all up in your fifis and start shouting systemic racism. Is to get all up in them fifis and start shouting police brutality and they're hunting blacks down and they're doing all this and they're doing all that. But when are you guys going to actually start looking at the facts? And when are you going to start holding some of these people that are getting killed by police accountable for the hand that they had in their own tragic death? And yes, it is tragic. We hate to hear about people who get killed, whether it's at the hands of police, whether it's at the hand of other gang members, other black people, whether it's at the hand of abortion doctors, which is music to the ears of you white liberals who claim that Black Lives Matter, yet you do everything you can to make sure that 900 of us are slaughtered and murdered every single day with the scourge of abortion. That's the only situation where Black lives don't matter. The biggest thing that's killing all of us disproportionately, 900 Black Americans every day that are killed. Those are the only Black lives that don't matter, which are the biggest source of Black death. 20 million since Roe versus Wade, but I've done plenty of videos on that. Let me ask you liberals a question. Why is it so hard for you to tell our black youth, for you to set a good example, and for you to exhort the black youth of today to be virtuous, obedient citizens and to comply with the police when they're pulled over, to be respectful, to not resist arrest, to not run away from cops, to not act like tough guys because they know they know that their camera's rolling so they can say, am I being detained? Am I being detained? Am I being detained? Why is it so hard for you woke Marxists to tell our brown-skinned youth to not resist arrest, to obey and to comply? Yet it's so easy for you guys to tell everybody else that they need to comply with these draconian mask mandates. You're all about resisting arrest. You're all about giving a pass to all these kids, all these youth, and not even youth, even older people who are killed at the hands of police. You have no problem whatsoever giving them a pass for resisting arrest, for disobeying law enforcement, for being disrespectful to the powers that be. Oh, but you let a white soccer mom walk into Costco without wearing her mask? Ooh, you obedience Nazis come out of the woodwork then, don't you? You could have a woke white liberal walking into Costco with their phone, right? Going on Facebook about, oh, it's terrible how these black youth keep getting killed by cops. These blacks keep getting killed by cops, even though there is a, hey, put your mask over your nose. Obey the law. Be obedient. Be a good citizen. In the same breath, I don't understand you people. Where is all of this pro-law enforcement? Where is all this pro-obedience? Where is all of this doing your part energy that you guys have when it comes to mass mandates? Where's all that energy when it comes to all these people that get killed while resisting arrest, while running away from the cops, while being armed while they run away from the cops, which we're going to get into this video. But before we do, I need everybody to like, comment, and share this video. The video that you're about to hear, for those of you who are afraid to share polarizing, controversial videos when it comes to, white police officers killing brown-skinned people. I know that you guys are afraid of sharing videos like that. I know you're afraid of cancel culture. I know you're afraid of losing your job. You're afraid of getting blocked. You're afraid to get unfriended. I want you to share this video, though, because I'll take all the blame, because everything you're about to hear is coming from a young, black, fatherless male who was raised in one of the worst parts of Detroit, in Brightmoor, Detroit. So blame it all on me. Say, hey, listen, my black friend, my token black friend on Facebook, I want you to hear his opinion about all these recent police shootings. So make sure you guys like and share this video. Now, I want to start off by something that really annoys me. That really, really annoys me. Yeah, I know, Nicole. I know I'm being shadow banned. I know I am. It is what it is. But the fact is, I want to start off by going at what I believe is the low bigotry, the soft bigotry of low expectations. I have a question for those of you that are outraged over all these police shootings when there's overwhelming evidence that the people who get shot were committing crimes, were resisting arrest, were armed, were on drugs, that had drugs in their system, like in the case of George Floyd. For all you people who are just clutching your pearls, you white woke liberals that clutch your pearls at the thought of people that are getting killed by cops, I want to ask you a question. This is a question that I have for you. Do you think black people are retarded? Do you think that we are special needs? Do you think that we're a segment of the population that's just crippled and disabled? Do you think that we're not mentally capable of being held to the same standards of citizenship that all the other segments of society are? Do you feel that we're just not mentally capable of just keeping the law, being good citizens, not getting in gangs, not selling drugs, not resisting arrest, not running from cops, not being disrespectful towards cops? Do you think that we are constitutionally incapable? Let me apply a little bit of reverse critical race theory here. Do you feel that we as black people are just constitutionally incapable, that we are genetically incapable of conducting ourselves properly on routine police stops? Is that what you guys think of us? Because if I were to turn on the TV and every time I get on my social media, that's how you guys make me feel. You woke white Marxist liberals. You guys make me feel like the black population needs a pass, that they need to get special treatment because we are genetically inferior to the rest of the population, because it's just not in our genes to not resist arrest. It's just not in our genes to just be respectful when we get pulled over by the cops and say, officer, can I ask why I'm being pulled over? Oh, officer, I apologize. Here's my ID. Do you guys think we're just incapable of that? Because every time one of these high profile shootings happen, and again, it always has to be white on black. It can't be a black cop killing a black person, which is, listen, I grew up in Detroit. Most police shootings of when black people are killed are at the hands of other black cops. You want to know why? Because police tend to come from the communities that they grew up in, right? If it's a predominantly black community, most of the people in that community in positions of power or in positions of authority are going to look like the people they govern. Black governs black. If it's a predominantly white community, well, guess what? Most of the police officers, most of the judges, most of the teachers, most of the et cetera, are going to be white. It's no different in the black community. But you don't see those on the news because it doesn't fit the narrative of white on black police killings, right? But why is it that you guys think it's so impossible for black people to not have a hand in their own death at the hand of cops? I'm not saying that there's not fault on both sides. I'm not saying that there's not cops that need better training, but how are they going to get good training when all you guys are continuing to want to defund their police departments? If you want to hashtag defund the police, guess what? You're cutting into their training budget. A low budget police department that doesn't have the funds that it needs to properly train their police officers, specifically training them with de-escalation techniques, if they don't have the money to train them, guess what? They're going to be cranking out cops that have bad training, which is going to continue to lead to some of these tragic shootings. For all these police departments that have been under the gun lately, I would be very interested to see their budgets, and I would specifically be very interested to see their de-escalation training budgets, because I'm willing to bet that they are caving and they are buckling to all this political pressure to defund the police, which as a result is going to turn out cops that don't have the kind of training that they need, especially de-escalation training. So do you think that blacks need special treatment because we're not capable of being held to the standards of everybody else? I really want to know, because I see a lot of bigotry of low expectations that coming from you guys. Whenever these situations happen, there are so many white liberals that have to just go out of their way to, I don't know if they do it to make themselves feel good, if they want to do it to get dopamine hits, if it's driven by white guilt because they feel like they need to apologize for their white privilege. I don't know what the deal is. I think part of it is being taught in schools. We got all this critical race theory nonsense that is poisoning the minds of our youth. But while we're on the topic of critical race theory, I believe that most white liberals truly believe that black people are incapable of conducting themselves properly when it comes to the police. And you know what? You are doing a dangerous disservice to our black youth. You are. When you're not making sure that 900 of us can get killed every day through abortion, when you're not busying yourself with that, the other thing you're busying yourself with is emboldening these black people to make them feel like they can resist arrest, because every time they turn on the news, they see all you guys protesting and holding up your signs and shouting your systemic racism, your systemic this, your systemic that, and talking about all these things that have absolutely nothing to do with race. You're making them feel like they don't need to obey cops because you never call them out for resisting arrest. If I was a young black person and I was going to school being taught critical race theory, and I see how the media portrays all these police shootings as just systemic racism, that the cops are out cruising for a bruising and they're hunting down blacks, I would have a cocky attitude towards cops too, especially if I didn't have a father in the home. Because a lot of these black youth, they are allergic to male authority. They are completely untrained on how to be in the presence of male authority. Why? Because they're all raised by single mothers. I'm just calling it how it is. The black family has been destroyed by liberalism since the 1960s. The new baby daddy has become the federal government. The husband and the father has been strategically and diabolically removed from the black home so that the government can come in and give a woman everything that she needs to take care of her kids. The black father is no longer needed in the black home. Why? Well, let's think about it. They provide education. The government gives, free public education, public indoctrination. They provide food stamps. They provide WIC coupons. They provide Section 8 housing. They provide all these welfare benefits that replace the income of a black father. And this was done on purpose, folks, 100 years to the year 1965, when the Great Society began, the quote-unquote war on poverty of Lyndon B. Johnson. What was 100 years prior to that? The Emancipation Proclamation. When Lincoln freed the slaves, 100 years later, the Democrats finally figured out a way to enslave us again, except this time they did it invisibly and economically via the welfare state. So for all you woke white Marxists who are so quick to clutch your pearls when all these blacks are killed by cops, I got a question for you. If you care so much about black kids, if you're so concerned about systemic racism and how black people just, have all the cards stacked against us, and that every time we open our eyes in the morning, we got to be on the lookout against cops that want to kill us and all these systemic racists that want to hold us back, what are you doing to end that then? Other than being a keyboard activist on Facebook and blacking out your profile with a Black Lives Matter hashtag, which, by the way, raises millions of dollars for people like Patrisse Cullors, who's now able to own $4 million worth of real estates in affluent white neighborhoods away from all the black lives she claims to matter. Her and her live-in partner that are married to each other, they're living fat now. I'm still waiting for some of this Black Lives Matter money that's been raised off the corpses of all these dead black men to actually make its way into the black community. But it hasn't done it yet. Why? Because it's too busy making its way into the pockets of the founders, the Marxist, the hypocritical Marxist founders of Black Lives Matter. They are living good off the money of all these dead black men. So what are you white liberals doing to mentor young black youths? How many black kids have your cell phone numbers? To all you woke white pearl clutchers that give a pass to all these people who resist arrest, that play a hand in their own death, how many black people have your cell phone number to where they can text you to ask you questions about how they can better themselves? Huh? How many black people have your private cell phone number to where they can text you to get some advice about how to get a slice of that American dream that seems to keep you up at night because of all your white guilt that causes you insomnia? Huh? How many black people are you helping? Because let me tell you something. You ain't helping us when you go on Facebook and you black out your Facebook profile. Anybody could do that. That takes a millisecond to do. All that does is make you feel good about yourself. It gives you some dopamine hits. It makes you feel woke. And in my mind, to me, that's the modern day version of the blood on the doorposts, because you don't want to feel the wrath of racism. You want the angel of Marxism to pass over you and leave you undeterred. So what you do is you black out your Facebook profile, or like in the neighborhood I live in, I live in a white neighborhood. I do. And you know what I see every time I walk the neighborhood? I see Black Lives Matter signs everywhere. But they don't really care about black people. You know why? Because the only reason they have those Black Lives Matter signs is so that if all these Marxists come to their neighborhood that they've been watching all for the last year during the 2020 Summer of Rage, they just want to make sure their house doesn't get burned down. Again, they want the Marxist angel of death to pass over their doorpost, so they have their little Black Lives Matter signs. Read Exodus 12. You'll understand the analogy of what I'm talking about. I actually went to Minneapolis early this year, and I went to George Floyd Square. That's an autonomous zone right now, by the way. I couldn't tell you the ocean of Black Lives Matter signs that I saw on all these white people's houses. You'll go by white businesses that have Black Lives Matter signs. Why? Because that's their way of putting the blood on the doorpost so the Marxist angel of death can pass over their business and not burn it down to the ground and vandalize it with ACAB and BLM graffiti. ACAB stands for All Cops Are Bastards, by the way. That's what the cousin organization of Antifa likes to do. So other than being a keyboard activist, do you really care about black people? Prove it. Show me your cell phone, and I want to see how many black kids, I want to see how many black victims of systemic racism are in your cell phone, and I want to see some text threads of you mentoring these people to show them how to better their situation. Because unless you can show me that, miss me with all your pearl clutching Facebook posts. Because you know what you guys are broadcasting to black youth? Let me tell you exactly what you guys are broadcasting to black youth. You are broadcasting to black youth that it's okay to resist arrest, that it's perfectly fine to resist arrest. You are broadcasting to our black youth, the next generation of my race that has as much a right to live as everybody else does, that it's okay to be in gangs, because Adam Toledo was a Latin king. He was. I hate to say was. I hate to speak of the young guy in past tense because he's no longer with us. And I'm going to get into why he's not. We're going to go through a few clips of what happened. You are broadcasting that it is okay to have outstanding arrest warrants like the young man Dante that was killed last week. You are broadcasting that it's okay to run from the police with a gun in your hand after they've been dispatched to the scene because of reports of multiple gunshots. Did you guys know that that's what happened with Adam Toledo? Did you guys know that he had a gun in his hand the whole time he was running away from the cops? And that he was shot milliseconds. Do you guys know how quick a millisecond is? It's pretty much a step above an eye blink. He was caught milliseconds before he was shot. He still had a gun in his hand, and he ditched it behind a gate. He stepped out of the line of vision to a cop that had been chasing him for 20 seconds, shouting at the top of his lungs, "Stop, stop, stop, stop running, stop, stop, stop," for 20 freaking seconds. And the only time that Adam Toledo stepped outside of the vision of this cop that had been chasing him for 20 seconds and yelling at the top of his lungs to stop was so that he could ditch the gun behind a gate. Because the last time the cop saw his right hand, it had a gun in it. And I'm going to show you some indisputable proof of that. So if I need to bottom line what I'm saying, you're telling black youth that it's okay to be a criminal. That's what you are broadcasting to black youth. Every time you get caught up in your fifis over all these police shootings, you are broadcasting to our black youth that it is okay to be a criminal, that it's not the gangbangers that are the bad guys. It's not the drug dealers that are the bad guys. It's not the pimps and the hustlers that are the bad guys. Nope, those are the victims. Those are the victims of slavery from hundreds of years ago. His great-great-great-grandfather Rufus was a slave, so of course he's going to rob liquor stores at 2:30 a.m. in the morning. What would you do if something happened to your great-grandfather Rufus? Wouldn't you be a criminal if your great-great-grandfather was a slave hundreds of years ago and you've yet to get your reparation check? I mean, can you blame the guy? That's pretty much what your guy's narrative is, that they are not the perpetrators, they are the victims. And I argue that they are victims of the welfare state. If you grow up without a father in the home, you're a victim. No doubt about it. But you guys aren't ready to have that conversation about systemic racism, the systemic racism of the welfare system that causes these young black men to not grow up with fathers. Like myself, I grew up without a father. Now, thank God I had God. If it weren't for my Catholicism, I'd have been a statistic too. Think about it. I didn't come from the suburbs. This ain't textbook what I'm saying. I am a young, black, fatherless male that was raised in Brightmoor, Detroit on Schoolcraft and Evergreen, who spent half of his childhood in the juvenile foster care system. Because my mom was too sick to take care of us. We were pulled out of the home. I was in all those dingy group homes. I was for a long time. I was a victim. But I'm a victor now. None of that defines me. It was a painful part of my past. Through the grace of God, I was able to get through it with his help. And with the help of other people that he put in my life, thank God I got through it. But that does not define me. Everything that I went through as a kid does not give me the right to resist arrest if I get pulled over. It does not give me the right to refuse to comply with a police officer if I have a taillight out or if he runs my plates and he sees I have outstanding warrants, which thank God I don't. But none of those things give me a right to engage in all this behavior that we see these people that get killed by cops engaged in. Now, am I arguing that their behaviors make them worthy of death? No, but they are gambling with their lives with the way they act when these cops pull them over. When you resist arrest, you are gambling with your life. If you are armed and if you have warrants and if you have things that cause these cops to be amped up on adrenaline and that cause these cops to enter into the confrontation with you, with their guards way up because of everything they're seeing on their computer from your criminal record, you are gambling with your life if you are not polite and obedient. And I am a black man who grew up without a father telling you this. I'm not some white professor. I'm not some middle-aged white lady living out in the suburbs, okay? I am a black man telling you, just like St. Paul did in Romans chapter 13, that if you resist the authorities, you're gonna catch the sword. It is not going to end well for you when you don't comply. Ask somebody who walks into Costco that doesn't wear their mask. They'll tell you how well it doesn't end for them when they don't comply with law enforcement. You are broadcasting that it's the cops that are the bad guys. That's the message you're sending to our black youth. I'm just telling you. Bigotry of low expectations, I believe, is literally killing our black youth. Your bigotry of low expectations is making our black youth think that they can disobey the police because of systemic racism. That's the message you're sending. You are turning them into arrogant, cocky, lawless victims. That is what I believe that you are doing, and you need to stop it. As a black man, I am asking you to stop it, to knock it off, to start holding people accountable when they should be held accountable. And I'm not saying police shouldn't be held accountable. The woman who confused her gun for a taser, of course, she's being held accountable right now. Derek Chauvin's being held accountable right now. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be accountability on both sides, but we got plenty of accountability on the sides of the cops. We got the whole world out for them. We got the whole world out trying to destroy their lives and get them buried underneath prison. So they got more accountability for 10 lifetimes. But where's the accountability on the other side? Because last time I checked, it takes two sides to have a confrontation. There are two sides to every confrontation. There are two sides to every story. So I don't want to go too long here. I'm already coming up on a half hour. I want us to analyze some of the clips of the Adam Toledo shooting, because I want you guys to see for yourself. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. It takes an amazing person to know one. It takes, hey, Michelle, good to see you. Let's do it. It takes some factual analysis to kind of bring to make some sense of this. So let me do the unpopular task of actually showing some facts here. Just give me a second to share my screen. Make sure I got the audio on. So I'm going to show you guys a clip here. And I'm going to kind of pause it here and there. Now, the first thing that gets to me is this depiction that they have of Adam Toledo. You notice the common pattern they do with all these police shootings. They always show them when they're like 5 years old, 6 years old, 8 years old. They never show them in the actual state of mind and in the actual state of attire and in the actual state of being they were at the time when they were killed. They never show the thugs that they were on the day they died. They always show them when they were little kids in grade school to make it look like these cops are just out hunting down kids, that these cops are just out to kill kids. Well, listen, if you don't like people killing kids, then why don't you become pro-life? Huh? Let's start there. Why don't you become pro-life, and why don't you join me if you're so discombobulated and if you're so traumatized at kids being killed, then how about you join me in front of the abortion clinic this Saturday, huh? Let's see how much you really care about kids being killed. So let's get into this video.
Nearly 30 pieces of evidence posted late this afternoon by COPA that is investigating how all of this came down. The most important, though, one piece of video, the body-worn camera on the officer who fired the fatal shot.
Fired by the police 10-4.
One shot fired by police took down 13-year-old Adam Toledo in this little village alleyway. The situation had unraveled quickly. Police deployed to the neighborhood on reports of multiple shots fired. This brief foot chase down an alley recorded on the body-worn camera of 10th District Officer Eric Stillman. The key moment.
Okay, now, this is not how it actually happened, folks. There is more to what you're seeing here, and we're going to get into it.
Takes about 1 second, according to Chicago police officials. Stillman reports seeing a gun in Toledo's right hand. The pistol that...
There it is. There it is. Now, there's the gun in his right hand. Now, like I said, this whole time he was chasing this kid down a dark alley at 2:30 a.m. in the morning. Let me set up the backdrop for this whole thing. Let me give you guys some context. Again, there are two sides to every story, and you need to hear both sides. The fact is, there were reports of multiple shots being fired in this alley, in this area of where Adam Toledo was. He fit the description. The cop got out. The cop had more than enough probable cause to get out of his car and chase this kid through a dark alley at 2:30 a.m. in the morning. Guys, when I was Adam's age, when I was 13 years old, you know what I was doing at 2:30 a.m. in the morning? I was in bed getting ready for school the next day so I can have enough rest so I can wake up for school in the morning, right? That's what most 13-year-olds are doing at 2:30 a.m. in the morning. But when you're a fatherless minority whose father was pulled out of the home because of the systemically racist welfare policies of the Democrat Party since the 1960s, you're going to be out in an alley at 2:30 a.m. in the morning with a gun in your right hand as a Latin King, because he was a member of the Latin Kings gang.
Say evident in this video freeze frame.
All right, you white pearl clutchers. You woke white pearl clutchers. What is this in his right hand you're seeing here? Huh? What is this? Before you go beating up on the cop, before you go giving the cop a hard time, explain to me what this is in his right hand, please. I'm listening. What is it? What does any of this have to do with race? Huh? This has to do with the fact that a kid was running from cops after shots fired reports with a gun in his right freaking hand, and the only time he stepped out of the cop's line of vision was to ditch said gun behind this gate, which we're going to see here. Let's keep going.
His arm at his side, and then a fraction of a second later, his hands moving upward without a gun, and he is shot once in the chest and killed. Officer Stillman's body cam taking this video of the gun that had allegedly.
Now, I'm going to show you guys a clearer picture of this gun. That's not as grainy as you're seeing on this video.
In Toledo's hand.
But anybody who knows anything about guns, this gun was empty. You guys do realize that once you empty the clip of a gun, that it cocks back because it's waiting to be reloaded again. This gun was empty. Why? Because shots were fired. Multiple shots were fired in the area where Adam Toledo and his fellow Latin King cohorts were. So this gun is empty, most likely from those shots that were fired that had the police officer there in the first place. And I'm going to show you guys a clearer picture of this.
A few feet away from his body, along the fence where the teenager was cornered. ABC7 legal analyst Gil Sofer, a former federal prosecutor, tonight says the case comes down to a question of when Toledo was shot.
Within a second before that, we see what appears to be a gun in Toledo's hand, and that he drops it before he raises his hands. If that's the case, then the officer is a very credible defense.
This incident was solved in 0.8 milliseconds. So it happened very quickly. It happened probably faster than science has proved an officer would be able to think his way through the situation.
Did you hear that? Do you guys realize how quick 8 milliseconds is? Like I said, we're talking like blink of an eye levels quickness. So I want to ask you guys a question. Let me ask you guys something. If you were chasing somebody, I want you to just turn off your fifis for a second. All right? Just shut down them fifis. They get you in so much trouble all the time. And just think logically with me for a second. Just think with your man, Bobby Hesley, for a second, okay? If you were a police officer and it was your duty to serve and protect, and you get the dreaded call that shots are fired and you need to be deployed to that location, right? You see somebody who fits the description of the person that shot the shots. You get out of your car. You tell them to stop. They start running from you. So you take off in pursuit of them, in hot pursuit of said person. You see that they have a gun in their right hand the whole time they're running away from you. And the only time they step out of your line of vision is to ditch the gun behind a gate. For all you know, how do you know they don't still have that gun in their hand? The cop didn't see what happened behind that gate because the only thing that he saw in the kid's right hand that whole time was this 9mm. It looks like a Taurus 9mm. You're so amped up on adrenaline. See, that's what gets me about these shooting scenarios. These police officers are amped up on adrenaline, but you woke white leftists are trying to make everybody think that they're amped up on racism. And that's the problem I have with the way you guys interpret these scenarios and the way you start clutching your pearls and using your social media platforms to spread disinformation and to hide facts and to give people passes for acting like criminals and resisting arrest. This cop was amped up on adrenaline for his life. He most likely has a wife and kids that he wants to get home to. The last thing that's on his mind is racism. I can assure you of that. Not to mention, it's a light-skinned Latin kid. It's a Latino kid. He's not some dark-skinned Wesley Snipes-looking black person that you guys love to fit the scenario in. Oh, white on black. Zebra killings, we'll call them. That wasn't at all the case. The guy was amped up on adrenaline and on the will to live. Human beings are programmed with the fight, freeze, and flight response. It has nothing to do with race. Let's keep going.
It appeared to me that the young man had his hands up at the time he was shot. It also appears
at the time he was shot, a millisecond after he just got rid of a gun that the cop probably didn't see him get rid of, Mr. Thedford.
To me that when the young man made the move for the gate or the fence, that opening where the shooting occurred, before he turned around, it appears that he disposed of, if he had a gun, that he had disposed of it right before the shooting. It does appear evident to me that he did not have a gun at the time the officer fired his weapon.
But he had a gun at the time the officer was chasing him. He had a gun the entire time the officer was chasing him. And unless the officer is Superman that has x-ray vision and can see through the clothes and the bones of this kid and only see the metal slug he was holding, how do you know that the officer was confident that he didn't have the gun? Listen, if I was chasing the kid and I responded to a shots fired report to an alley at 2:30 a.m. in the morning, and I'm chasing the kid and he's running away from me after I say stop, 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 and the only time he steps out of my line of vision is behind a gate to get rid of the gun that I saw he had in his hand, how do I know he wasn't still holding the gun when he walked back out of the gate?
34-year-old CPD officer Eric Stillman does not have a history of deadly force violations or...
Oh, that's pretty devastating. That's pretty devastating to the left narrative. He doesn't have 18 violations like Chauvin did. Dang, man. We can't paint a narrative now. He was actually a good cop, dadgummit. A good cop with no bad record. Dang it, man. There goes our narrative out of the window. We're not going to be able to make any money off this police shooting.
Complaints, according to a civilian agency that tracks those things.
Not to mention, guys, all right, we're kind of done here. Not to mention, and I don't have time to get into this now because I'm already running long. I'm coming up on 40 minutes. But just type in Adam Toledo on YouTube. You could see the cop performing CPR on him. You could see the care and the compassion that this cop had for this kid after he tragically shot him. Now, if he was a systemic racist that's cruising for a bruising, that's just looking for some N-words that he can kill so he can make his little N-word kill quota for the day, why would he take the time to give him CPR? Why would he care so much about him? Matter of fact, you know what? Hold on. This ain't good enough. Hold on a second. I actually, the more I think about it, give me a second, guys.
Officer Stillman's body.
I actually want to show you guys the humanity of this cop who killed him. Just give me a second here. You tell me if this sounds like racism. Oh, they removed the video.
Please stop.
Okay, here we go. Hold on, guys. Let me show you this. Let me get the screen on. And you tell me if this sounds like a racist who's cruising for a bruising that's just looking for some N-words to kill. You tell me.
Please stop. Stop right now. Hands. Show me your hands. Stop it. Stop it. Shots fired. Shots fired. Get an ambulance up here now. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. You all right? Where you shot? .24 and Sawyer in the alley, West Alley. Need an ambulance. Got a gunshot victim. Shots fired by the police.
Now, this wasn't the clip I was wanting. There was actually an original clip that I had that actually showed the up close CPR that the cop was doing on the kid, and he was saying, "Stay with me, stay with me." That's not what racists do. Okay, do you think when Buford and ALW were stringing up young black teenagers during the days of Jim Crow, when the Democrat KKK was running rampant down south, do you really think when they hung the blacks up on the tree, they were saying, "Stay with me. Are you okay? Stay with me." They were saying, "We got them, boys. We got us another one today, ALW." That's what they were doing. If this cop truly wanted to kill a brown-skinned person, why would he call for ambulance help? He would have let him die in the alley, right? If he hates people of color and he wants them all dead, nobody else is around. Why would he try to save the life of somebody who he hates? Democrats didn't used to try to save the lives of people they hated. When you Democrats used to hate us black people, right? When you would hang us, when you would hose us down, when you would sick police dogs on us, when you would commit actual police brutality against us, you didn't call for ambulances. You didn't call for medical help. You wanted all of us niggers dead, didn't you? And to this day, you want us niggers dead. When you kill 900 of us every day with your abortion, when you fight to make sure that we can get aborted every day so that we can stay at 13% of the population, you're not checking in with the babies. You're not saying, hey, can you breathe? Are you okay? Where did I cut you at? Where did I slice you at? Are you in pain? You celebrate it. You hashtag shout our abortions, don't you? You hypocritical leftist Marxists. So, I know, Carl. I know. The truth shall not be suppressed. The truth will go out. If you guys can't see it on Facebook, you can see it on YouTube. I'm getting ready to end the video now. I wasn't planning on broadcasting today. I actually have quite a bit I have to do real estate wise. So, but listen, I couldn't stay silent. I'm tired of the bigotry of low expectations. I'm tired of it. As a black man who grew up without a father in Brightmoor, Detroit, who should have been a statistic, I am tired of this fake compassion of you woke white liberals. I want to see some real world action. If you really care about systemic racism, rather than doing all the things you love doing on Facebook, all the pro clutching, all the hashtags, all the stuff you like to do, let me see you take some real world action for a change to actually help black people. If you really care about them, if you really truly care about us, why don't you start by teaching our youth how to act in the presence of law enforcement? Why don't you start there? Why don't you teach us how to respect authority? Because if we could have basic respect for authority, do you realize how many problems would go away just like that overnight? Let me give you an analogy. If somebody smoked their entire life, let's say that somebody smoked their whole life. They smoked 3 packs a day of cigarettes their whole life. Now they got emphysema. Now they got lung cancer. And they go to the surgeon to get some surgery. And the surgeon gives them too much anesthesia and it kills them. Kind of like how Michael Jackson got killed, right? He had too much propofol in his system. They injected too much and it killed him, right? Okay, you blame the doctor. The doctor is at fault. The doctor should lose his license. He maybe go to jail like Conrad Murray did for killing Michael Jackson for administering too much anesthesia to him. And he should be held accountable. But what about the person who smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day their whole life? Would they be in that situation if they had a basic respect for their health? Yeah, it was bad that they were killed by the doctor. The doctor committed horrible malpractice. The doctor violated the Hippocratic Oath. Okay, and he should be held accountable for that. But if you wouldn't have smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day your whole life, you wouldn't have been in that situation. It could have been prevented had you acted differently. That's the point I'm trying to make. So when you have the will to live, when you have an amped up police officer who's amped up on adrenaline, who has the will to live, who has a wife and kids to get back to every day, that will to live is also going to clash with the will to live of the person that's getting arrested. Now, this minority that's getting arrested his whole life, he's had it pounded in his brains at school, when he turns on the TV, when he goes onto social media, everywhere he turns, he has it pounded into his head that white systemic racists are hunting him down and want him dead. That the police are bad, they're Nazis, they're this, they're that, all cops are bastards, like Antifa likes to say, ACAB. So when you combine all that cocktail of all these things that are put in their heads and they get pulled over by a cop, what do you expect? He's going to be defiant. He's going to have a sense of fear. But I argue that it's a false sense of fear that's been put into his head by all these woke leftists who like to make themselves feel good by telling us black people how much everybody has it in for us. And he's going to resist arrest. He's not going to comply. He's going to run. He's going to act like a little punk and say, why am I being detained? F you, officer. Even the military guy, Lieutenant, so I forget his name, the guy that was maced. What gave him the right to resist arrest the way he did? I don't care how much he served his country. I don't care if he's a wounded veteran missing an arm. Nothing gave him the right to conduct himself the way he conducted himself. Nothing gave him the right to refuse to comply with the police officers the way he did. God bless him for his service, but that does not give him the right to disobey law enforcement. And if you disagree with that, then how about I take off my mask next time I walk in Costco, huh? Let's see how much of a problem you have with me disobeying then. Oh, I got to be a good citizen all of a sudden then. I better not dare resist then when that happens, huh? So I want to thank everybody for tuning into the show. It's been a while. I miss you guys. I love you guys. And I will see you on the next show. God bless.